It's Monday, May 7th, 2010. Well,
2010. 2010.
2012. Why was I saying 2010? I have no idea. That's so weird.
What movies came out
It's
in
not
2010?
even a year off. It's 2 years off.
Wasn't that Inception?
I'm losing it. I was incepted over the weekend. We'll get to that right after we introduce ourselves. It's the 404 show on CNET. I'm Jeff Bacalar.
I am Scott Stein.
And this is the show where we can't believe how much it made. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot of money to make for one movie. We're talking about the Avengers that pulled in over $200 million this weekend, obliterating every record that was previously held by such fine films
as
like what, Spider-Man 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
It
Dead Man's Chest, as they call it on this chart.
The Harry Potter movie was the one that it actually dethroned.
Yep.
And it's the biggest jump in terms of just cash, just strictly speaking cash, in history, it looks like, judging by this little infographic that we got our hands on.
And they say the movie
in the past
industry,
30 years, yeah.
Yeah, and they say the movie industry is having problems. Well, that's a pretty awesome number for a film.
I still do think it is having problems. I think is Avengers one of these films that was out in 3D? Was this one of these 3D movies? It was.
Yes.
All right. Well,
but it's a isn't it a converted? So it's not a.
Oh, so they did it in post, is what you're saying?
Yes, I believe that's what I had read about this.
All right. Well, regardless, I do think this does speak volumes about what people are willing to see, and it takes this enormous blockbuster for someone to be like, hey, I'm going to go see a movie if it involves literally every Marvel superhero put into one film. And that's sort of what the Avengers are. I mean, it's got an all-star cast. This movie had to cost $200 million to make as well. I can't see it costing any less than that.
Yeah, it seemed pretty epic, and they invested so much time in making all of these films that led up to it with the same cast.
Right.
That it's kind of like the biggest, it's like a tantric movie release. Like we've got every Avengers hint in other movies and credits that we've been watching through Iron Man and even people who sat through Thor.
For sure. Did you saw Thor?
No.
I didn't see. I heard mixed stuff about Thor.
Yeah, I did everything but Thor, and I thought about watching it to get ready for this one, but I'm still not sure I want to. I heard it doesn't even make that much sense. There were comments saying like, if you want to find out blah 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 with Loki, well, just let it go.
You know what?
So I was like, okay, well, I guess there's no continuity exactly with that.
I think I gotta do this. I think the right people are behind this. I mean, I really like Joss Whedon.
The Avengers, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I really like the way they sort of handled this.
It sounds awesome.
With all the movies that were leading up, I feel like a lot of people just think like, I hate on everything. This is something that I'm marginally excited about.
We're the only podcast
mean?
Room that has not seen this movie.
We really are.
Nobody has seen the film.
It's funny because the three of us have not seen this film. But again, it just obliterated records. It really just made every other. I mean, when you think about the summer blockbuster, I do think Dark Knight Rises is going to beat this. I do.
Really?
I do. I think it's going to beat it. I think it'll do like 210 or 220.
So I always had a theory that at least half of the box office for The Dark Knight was centered around the Heath Ledger phenomenon.
You think so?
Yes, because I think so many people were seeing it in a way as a tribute to that, or people who liked movies with Heath Ledger that maybe didn't like Batman movies.
Okay.
Am I wrong? I don't know. I
feel like
that was propelled.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
There was this phenomenon behind that. Like, oh my God, it was his last film.
Yeah, it was like a tribute viewings.
Yeah.
And almost like a Titanic type.
But it was also an amazing film. You know what I mean?
It was amazing, yeah.
Like I'll give my respect to the people who wrote, the Avengers, right? It was who wrote it? Joss Whedon wrote it. But the story is by, and Zach Penn helped write the story, I think, to the Avengers. All right, so I'll give them some credit for that. You know what I mean? But do you think it's as good of a film? We don't know. We haven't seen it. But the thing about the Christopher Nolan, I mean, those are really good movies. They're recognized. They're sort of on a different level.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's that and Prometheus are the arrival of the films of the summer. The ones where you're like, I got to be in the theater with the right conditions.
For sure.
Maybe on my own. Like Avengers, like a group of people you could be drinking.
Maybe on my own. Yeah, the Avengers you could have gone wasted and seen.
Right, seen
I
it
feel
projected on the back of a. Well, you want to see good quality. You want
For
to see
sure.
it projected on the back of a truck or something. But the thing about the Avengers I find fascinating is, will it inspire more? I mean, that's in the comics, but more mashups. Like, could you ever see like these things like Jurassic Park meets Transformers?
Oh
You know,
my
like,
God.
take all of the blockbusters and throw them together.
Well, at least the Avengers is based on an actual group within the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
it's not,
so
you know what I
it
mean?
pre-exists.
They weren't like taking Batman and Spider-Man. Well, I guess there's some mashup where that exists too. But I'm saying like they didn't just smash up two franchises that have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's true. And Alien and Predator never really found that magic cocktail.
No, they didn't.
That didn't work.
That was like oil and vinegar. Just did not mix.
Those don't even. People talk about this being the next Alien movie, Prometheus, but I love how nobody discusses Alien versus Predator,
Yeah.
which technically are out there. What do we do with those? Those are like just like on the back of the spice rack.
Yeah, it's strange.
You don't open them.
We just found out over the weekend as well. Prometheus will have an R rating, which
It has
is
to.
important.
Yeah.
And I can't stress this enough. I wish the Dark Knight movies were rated R too.
They're
because
not?
They're not. They're PG-13.
That feels messed up.
Well, there's
For the
that's
Dark
the
Knight?
politics of the MPAA, and
Yeah.
they sort of pick and choose when it comes to the violence, and the box offices have ambitions about who they want the demographic to be, and they sort of work with the MPAA, and it's obviously just a freaking racket, and they do what they got to do. But yeah, it was just that Prometheus will be getting the R rating, which I think is important.
Yeah, I think it's the whole. That's the essence of the Alien movies. Now you're going to tell me that Human Centipede is technically PG-13. I feel like I'm having my mind blown.
It's not technically.
No, not at all.
No,
that's a complete
it's
lie.
It's a soft PG.
But I'm just feeling like,
yeah.
imagine the technicality. You're like, well, if you go by the letter.
Yeah.
No, that's such a horrific film. But
I'm actually so excited about Prometheus. I really am. That and Dark Knight Rises, I'm just really getting psyched for.
Dark Knight Rises, I'm like a B+ excited, and the Prometheus, I'm like through the roof, upsettingly excited. Watched the trailers multiple times, despite people saying not to. I'm worried because the last film I got this excited about, I really do think was Phantom Menace.
What? You were excited for Phantom Menace?
I was, because do you remember the original trailer to the Phantom Menace?
I do.
It was awesome.
It was, but come on, Scott.
It looked like it was going to be a real Star Wars movie.
How old were you when Phantom Menace came out?
Old enough to know better.
That was 10. That's the point
I was
I'm trying to
finishing
make.
graduate school. I was 23.
So you were in your mid-20s.
24, yeah.
And you were a learned film goer. You knew what the story was. You knew how things worked in the industry, and you still let yourself fall victim.
But they hid so much about that movie.
They hid the crap.
They hid the crap.
They hid the crap.
You saw production art, and then you saw those trailers were just amazing.
Yeah.
I just don't want a Jar Jar showing up in Prometheus.
There's not going to be a Jar Jar in Prometheus.
Please.
Dude, there wasn't. Was there one in Blade Runner? No. There wasn't. Blade Runner, which
it's going to be awesome. Prometheus is going to be awesome.
I really hope. It's tough to get too excited about stuff, and it also has the opposite sort of ramifications. Like, I remember getting really, really excited for Inception, and I was a little let down by Inception.
I was too, until the very end, and this was influenced by the audience with the spinning top, and then everybody.
That's what got you.
But then it was also everybody started gasping in the audience for some reason.
Did it now?
And then the credits ran, and then because of the gasping, I thought, "Oh, that must mean even more than I thought."
Yeah.
And then I kind of got excited, but only then, because the rest of the movie did feel like a letdown.
It was a letdown, man.
It felt too much like a Matrix.
It was the
sequel.
Matrix.
Yeah, it was too much action, running through a hallway, people with guns.
Right?
Yeah,
it should be
weirder.
Turn this corridor while they run around. All right.
Every dream world must feel like a action movie.
Yeah, that's the. I don't want to get in. I don't want to get incepted ourselves into this whole thing.
Prometheus has a little bit of Avatar in it, which I'm worried about.
Yeah, there's a dash of it.
I'm worried that there'll be like an unobtainium thing.
Oh, jeez.
Maybe that's what they're looking for.
I don't know. I trust Ridley Scott. I really do.
Yeah.
He's got an amazing track record. I mean, look at this guy. It's funny because it's like Hannibal, Black Hawk Down, Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, and then it's like, oh yeah, Thelma and Louise.
I forget.
You know?
Oh yeah. That was cool that he did that. He's like, I'm just playing around doing some other
It's
stuff.
awesome. It's awesome. He's a fantastic director. I'm really, really excited about it.
And speaking of Avatar, like you saw that the whole James Cameron there, he's committed to Avatar. He said in a recent interview, he's planning on. He shut down his development office. It's just another random thing I remember reading over the weekend.
Well, because he's going to Neptune. He wants to go to. He wants going to be the first director to go to Neptune and come back.
So he's not developing scripts. He's making Avatar 2, 3, possibly even 4. He said.
Yeah, that's okay. Why would they need to go back? What's going to happen?
I know. I don't know. Is it just going to stay on that world and just going to be exploring like the aquatic side?
Or will the next
Avatar?
one just be the Na'vi and no humans?
Like
and it'll be like the Na'vi deal with their own problems, you know?
Or maybe like the history. Yeah, just going back to their natural history.
You know, something like that. Or a prequel. How did this happen? How did this start? I would rather see a prequel than a sequel for Avatar.
I kind of like to see an alien type sequel where it takes place 400 years later.
Yeah.
After like the world has been totally destroyed in the end. After all, almost like the United States and the history of like the Native Americans. Like if you're going to take that analogy.
Yeah.
Like imagine like what if the humans just won flat out.
It'd be cool.
In the end.
An alternate history.
Right. And that battle never mattered.
Yeah. So yeah, again, the Avengers beating Deathly Hallows Part 2 by over $30 million. $200.3 million is what the Avengers took in over the weekend.
So this means it's going to be
and
the highest grossing film?
It wasn't a holiday weekend. It wasn't a holiday weekend.
No.
It wasn't, anything like that. It just kicked ass by itself. Good for them.
And it's $641 million worldwide already?
That's nuts.
That's an industry already in
For
a
sure.
week.
They got it now. They're going to make 16 of these.
Will it top Avatar? Will it become the highest grossing film? Or is this just going to be like a very
I don't know.
It's
all about the trail off. Kind of upsetting to see that, well, I guess depending on how you look at it, there are 4 Batman films on this list, and we're talking about weekend records from 1983 to now, so basically 30 years.
Wow.
You got Batman, the first Batman, then Batman Returns, then Batman Forever, and then The Dark Knight. And, I would be shocked to find that The Dark Knight Rises to not be on here. I think it will be. I think it'll be on this list.
It'll be on this list.
In just a few short weeks.
This blows me away because I remember how big Spider-Man's opening was. And
Of
as
course.
early as 2002, that mega opening was $114 million.
Yeah. And what's really cool is the percentage jump. So this little infographic here talks about the 2 biggest jumps. One monetarily, so that was Harry Potter to the Avengers, and then the biggest percentage jump was it looked to be like The Last Crusade / Ghostbusters up to the first Batman. If you could see that little bump down there, which is
before that it was $29 million was a mind-blowing opening weekend.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. When you look at the
million.
film from 1983, which is Return of the Jedi, pulling in 23 in one weekend, $23 million.
Yeah.
And then all the way up. That's amazing, to $200 million in a weekend in just 30 years. I mean, you got to adjust for inflation and all that stuff, but still, that is a nutty amount of money. All right, let's move along just a little bit. There's some rumors floating around, and our own Scott Stein, who can speak to all things laptops and all that good stuff. There's a lot of rumors flying around that there might be a cheapo MacBook Air, an $800 MacBook Air. Is that a possibility for this year? On CNET, there is an article saying that a report is claiming such a thing. The DigiTimes is saying that we might see an $800 MacBook Air as early as the third quarter, citing the usual sources from the upstream supply chain.
Always a mixed bag there.
Yeah, the site says that a more aggressively priced MacBook Air could crimp rival Ultrabooks, especially if Intel is unable to bring their average selling price down to its goal of $700. Interesting. Do you think this could be a possibility? I ask you, Mr. Scott Stein, king of the MacBook Air.
Well, it's interesting that Intel says that its goal is to bring those laptops down to $699 also. I think that's
ambitious,
but then a lot of these are showing up now with, instead of getting flash SSD drives, you're going to see a lot of those now having regular hard drives.
Right.
Or hybrid hard drives with a little bit of SSD cache.
Sure.
Those who care about that stuff. But that could bring it down to $699. Yeah, I think that you're always going to have that white MacBook crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
The back to school, that the cheapest Apple laptop, which usually was $999.
Right.
And as of this past year, they made the shift to say that, well, your MacBook Air will be the entry level MacBook, and hey, that 11 inch is $999. Which, of course, with 64 gigabytes of storage, that's not really going to get it done for any student heading to college.
Of course not.
So
that's gonna have to change.
So that has to change, and you'd think that I would think that if there is one, that it might make sense to make a very specific type of MacBook Air-like machine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe again go to plastic, or maybe include a full regular hard drive.
Right.
Again, you go with
do
the
you think a regular hard drive? Don't you think they're done with that?
I would,
especially in the Air.
I would think that, but if they can't get the,
how would they? Couldn't even fit
if the prices can't go down below $999.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time believing that that Apple would cut that low, because that goes into the iPad territory.
Right, it does. You're right.
And usually there's with every product line, there's always like a little leap, a little like $150 to $100
There's
leap.
that little bit of premium you're paying.
Right, and to make the decision in your head to say, oh, maybe I spend up and go there.
Yeah.
I think $999 might make sense, but I don't know if you can get enough flash storage in there to make it really useful.
Yeah.
Do people who go back to school care? Do they just want to plug in an external hard drive or live in the cloud? Do they say, well, 128's fine for me?
I don't. You know what? I am not giving the average student enough credit, and I don't think they can handle the whole cloud thing. I don't think they're privy to it. I don't think they're savvy enough.
I think it's a mess too. I think a lot of cloud stuff, we talk about it here. Dan and I talk about it. He says he's living in the cloud all the time, and I'm not really living in the cloud all the time.
I think the cloud
broken half the
it's
time.
an illusion. It doesn't work. It's not. It doesn't work. It's I wish I could come up with an analogy that's sort of where we're at with it. There's certain things that get pushed out prematurely, and I think the whole cloud universe, regardless of what medium you're using it for, I feel like the only one it sort of works with is music right now,
right?
Somewhat reliably. I don't think we're there yet. I just don't think we're there yet.
The problem with music is really you have to use the cloud services rules for it in whatever way that means. Like iTunes Match I use, and yes, it'll sync back in a way with my devices, but I can't really add music directly to the cloud and then add it back to my device.
Right.
It's like an iTunes brokered.
Yeah.
It's a pain. It's a pain in the ass.
When you think of a cloud, you think of this. Well, the way I envision it is this sort of external hard drive that is always connected as soon as I have an internet connection.
Right.
And it's just not like that. There's too much of a handshake. There's too much red tape that sort of damages the connection.
Strange interfaces and rules and things that's not
sucks.
as drag and drop. And also, just frankly, getting stuff on and off. If you want to use, for me, it's photos and videos. I have to deal with that stuff. And sure, you get an external hard drive, but it's nice to keep stuff like that on your computer.
Right.
And my iPhone 4S videos take up ridiculous amounts of space.
For sure.
So suddenly it's like several hundred megabytes for this 20-second stupid video I shot.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is where do you store all that? You can't dump it into the cloud. You can't. It takes forever to pull that stuff back off again.
Yeah. I want to talk about this before we take the break, and I want to get your honest opinion on something like this.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been starting to become disappointed with the performance of certain Macs.
Which one?
I'm not impressed anymore. I've had a couple Macs pass through my desk because I was waiting for a replacement, as everyone knows in the office, because I keep pilfering machines from the lab. I was using a year-old iMac with an i5 and maybe about 4 gigs of RAM. I would have 2 browsers open with, like, let's say 7 to 10 tabs open in each one, which is a heavy workload, plus Photoshop running in the background and Spotify and a few things. And this thing was chugging along. It couldn't handle it. Am I demanding too much? Because I'm using a Cosmo laptop for temporarily until I get my thing squared away. And this thing handles it with no problem, doesn't skip a beat. I got 10 tabs open in each one. I've got multiple Photoshop files open that I'm editing, and Spotify's running, and I can open up. I can play Portal 2 while it's all going on too. What's the deal with that? Why am I? I mean, I know I'm sort of like, I'm trying to just ask, like, is there something going on? Have you seen something recently in this sort of like trend with MacBooks that they're not performing like I don't know. I have like this
weird.
Like the machine I have here, this thing's a monster, but it also has 16 gigs of RAM. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you're fine.
just a beast. But I don't know. I feel like what I'm asking this MacBook to currently sort of run, I don't think I'm asking a lot.
And it's a MacBook or an iMac?
So that was the iMac, and then I got an i7 MacBook that the company gave me with 4 gigs of RAM, and it's faster than the iMac, but it's still struggling when I have everything open like that. It's still taking a few seconds for things to catch up. The Cosmo thing, awesome. Handles it like a champ.
And that has 4 gigs of RAM?
I think the Cosmo might have more. I think it's probably all about RAM.
It may be RAM.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shouldn't. I mean, maybe one upgrade from 4.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that, but I used a MacBook Air a lot recently.
Yeah.
And I like the relative speed on that.
That's also, you got to consider the SSD drive,
SSD
which speeds things up.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And it's it's also about like, am I opening that many windows? No.
Right.
No way. Not on an Air. But yeah, I don't know. That's I know that my couple-year-old MacBook is faring terribly.
Really?
But it's old. It's more than a couple. It's 2008.
Yeah.
I swapped out the RAM on that and upgraded it. But even so, I mean, it's really slow.
Chat room says it's all about getting the RAM upgrade.
The RAM helps a lot.
The RAM helps. And then Beatmaster says stop using Flash and Java. Is that really? Does that handicap OS 10? Is that really like is Lion not down with the Flash and Java?
It certainly doesn't help. And it's Apple doesn't make that stuff. They make you run to get it now.
Yeah.
It's not built into the browser.
They really make you run, send you on a wild goose chase.
Yeah, there's nothing in their computer that really says we like Flash.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could definitely. That can gum up any computer, but on the Mac side, yeah, that might.
Because I'm using like a Chrome Firefox sort of hybrid tandem sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's not happy with that. Maybe I'll double the RAM. I'll get someone to double the RAM for me.
Doubling the RAM is the best way to deal with that sluggish, like any spinning wheel type weirdness. There you go.
Chat room also says that doesn't he know that using uTorrent takes up a lot of CPU? That's not what I'm doing. They've closed that port, okay? I found out the hard way.
Exactly.
We'll take a break. More with Scott Stein after this. Stick around. A lot more 404 after the break.
This is the 404 MRFers, the show where we all sing songs.
We could also talk about what's coming, because I think they're going to redesign the line.
So yeah, so you think? Okay, we'll come back and we'll talk more. We'll talk more about this now. So Scott Stein is saying that you think this could be a possibility.
Yeah, I think it's time that the line of MacBook products needs to be rethought out. First of all, the fact there's a 13-inch MacBook Air and a 13-inch MacBook Pro doesn't make any sense to me. And
right.
I know people have argued back to me about this and said, "No, how can
crazy.
You can't get rid of the Pro?" And I'm like, it doesn't even have dedicated graphics. It has, performance-wise, on our tests, they were pretty much identical.
Right.
The Air and the Pro last year, and now with the Ivy Bridge chip updates.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all you need to do to me is pop in a hard drive on there, make a hard drive option for those who care about more storage.
Right.
And then you've got your Air Pro, whatever you want to call it. And then
Air Pro, I like that.
Yeah, like make a cooler new Air with a new variety of lines.
MacBook Air Max.
And then they got to fix that 15-inch Pro.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just it feels to me now.
I think they're just going to stop doing the Pros altogether.
They got to slim it down and make it something else. Make that 15-inch. I don't know. It just needs to be cooler looking. To me, it's no longer. It used to be nice
heavy.
And cool looking. It's heavy. It feels bulky.
Yeah.
I mean, it still matches the thickness of your average 15-inch that's slim.
But it's why am I carrying this around?
Right. At work, I decided I'm going to go Air versus taking an option to go with the Pro, just because I'm going to be traveling around.
Yeah. No, yeah. I wish I could have gotten an Air for sure.
They just added it, but I'm worried about this. Obviously, worried about storage limitations. But I think that's the problem: is how do you take that 15-inch Pro and make it cool again. And people might want to hit me for saying that because there's a lot of talk in computers. There's an angriness about performance. Like it's not about being cool, you idiot. It's about performance.
Right.
But no, it's about both. Like they could retain that performance.
I would much rather. When you say
and make it more stylish.
When you say that, when you talk about the aesthetics of it,
yeah.
I think I would much rather sacrifice the aesthetics. But are you talking about weight? Does that fall into that as well?
That's what I mean by cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the sense of, like you say, you want to carry it around, you want to enjoy it. I don't really care about materials or anything.
Right, or what it actually physically looks like.
No, and they're not going to go too nuts with that. I think it's going to be pretty clean. But I think that, I just think it's due for a design overhaul. I think that those MacBook Pros have not changed their look
in almost 5 years.
Yeah, since 2008.
Yeah,
since 2008.
So almost 4 years. Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, that's when I got mine. That's when I got the current MacBook Pro I have now. I got an 08. Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you left them out for someone to look at.
Right, for sure. Unless you went to about this Mac.
Right, and so you just think I just think how is it not due? You look at what iMacs were in 2008.
Yeah. Night and day.
Yeah, you just be stunned, and I think it can't go on another year.
Yeah.
Without changing things and without keeping up, because also on the Windows side, there's a lot of change in laptops. People are making all sorts of thin, interesting laptops that may not be exactly what you're looking for, but they're trying.
For sure.
And you can't just sit back on that unibody design forever.
Right.
And be like, that's it for a decade.
Right.
We're
no,
done.
they're definitely due. I think we can all agree with that. Speaking of Apple, you think they settled for what the iPad 3 became? There's an interesting article up on CNET talking about how it is possible that the original plan for the iPad 3 was to include something called IGZO technology, which is a display technology. They talked to Raymond Soniera, who's the founder and president CEO of DisplayMate Technologies. He says that the plan was to use this new technology called IGZO from Sharp, a lot higher electron mobility that allows them to make the transistors a lot smaller and the circuit elements a lot smaller as well. Basically, what that means is smaller transistors, smaller elements would allow more light through and reduce the number of backlights needed, thus resulting in a thinner overall display assembly. That was possibly what Apple was trying to do, and perhaps they had to settle for what we now know the third iPad to be. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's believable.
It's believable. It's actually more believable than I thought based on when I heard the story coming out. I thought, what do they mean settle for Plan B? What's the story here? Because you hear this every year with features that are dropped on the iPad.
Right.
Or that we hoped would be there. We don't know that they were dropped. We say, like, well, we want this, this, and this. And Apple usually tends to introduce just one of them or two of them.
Sure.
And we're left hoping again for the following year. That's interesting as far as that tech. It reminds me of what Ty had said, Ty Penneberry on the TV side, that I remember before this came out, he and David Katzmaier were wondering seriously whether it could happen because of power. Thinking about exactly that, the power to push those pixels on display technology they knew required more light, would require more battery, and that turned out to be exactly true. I mean, this seems perfect for a great way to come back the following year and say, hey, Retina display, even thinner, more battery life.
Right.
I mean, it seems to me like, why not wait a year? Because if you solve that problem right off the bat, that's a great new fix on the next one.
Exactly.
So
you just have a huge check mark right there.
Yeah, I mean, because the battery life on this, I did get the iPad 3, third gen iPad, whatever you want to call it. I like it, but for the first time, I feel like I need to keep an eye on that battery.
Yeah, that battery.
End of the day, I plug it in and charge it.
You're saying it goes too quick?
It does. I could spend a few hours doing something, videos or games, and I can see the battery drop significantly. Let's say from like 70% to 50%.
And they do claim it's the same battery. It's the same battery performance, don't they?
They claim it's the same battery performance, but they claimed the same battery performance, I believe, in the last gen, and there's always flux. Like, I mean, the iPad 2 is actually significantly better than the iPad 3 in a lot of tests they've shown on video playback. Even weirder, have you seen these reports that like the new chipset construction, I believe it's called the iPad 2, 4.
Yeah.
In these new iPads are actually performing significantly better on battery life than the last iPad 2s. That you have to like somehow, they don't list this, but you have to like
weird.
find the 2, 4 indication, but that they tried video playback and gaming, actually maybe a couple of hours better performance in some instances.
Wow.
Like
That's significant.
Like somewhere in that, I have to look up the amount, but it was like in a greater than 15%, which is significant.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's something, so again, the numbers are not always completely stable. I mean, this iPad does not perform as well battery life-wise. That's absolutely true compared to the iPad 2.
I've noticed that, and I've noticed that charging it is amazing. It's so much longer. It takes to fully charge up.
Yeah, you have to leave it for a while.
Almost overnight.
Like an overnight.
Yeah. The guy they interviewed, Mr. Sonera, goes on and says, there's no question that the iPad 3 was a plan B. They pushed amorphous silicon to a higher pixel per inch than anybody else, but the light throughput is not good. So it has roughly twice as many LEDs, and they had to therefore get a 70% larger battery. There's a 70% larger battery in the iPad 3 over the iPad 2.
Yeah, well, that's why it's astonishing.
Freaking crazy.
That's why it's astonishing that the battery life feels, in a lot of instances, like maybe a little less impressive.
Think about how much energy that thing is using.
Yeah.
They really just sort of Frankensteinily mashed this thing together, didn't they?
Oh, they did. I still find it really hard. I'm not being an Apple.
Do you regret buying an iPad 3?
No, because I think that the one thing I always felt annoyed by in the last year with the iPad was the quality of the resolution for text.
Agree.
Because that's one of the main things you're doing on it.
Right.
For
it's
video,
the screen. The screen's the thing you're looking at the most.
And
it's
I'm
the most
reading
important.
headlines and news and magazines and things like that. So
Sure.
I think, you know what? It's actually a more tangible difference than the iPad 2,
Right.
which was more of a cosmetic upgrade. I never really used the video cameras or the cameras, period. But I don't, for gaming and video, I never notice it.
Yeah.
I mean, the rare game I notice.
Yeah, I'd say only a handful of games really, really show a difference.
Right.
But the text and comics.
Yeah,
I'm
comics.
a big comic guy with that. The comics are fantastic.
Oh, and this is much less exciting than comics. I was like, and the PDFs are amazing.
Those PDFs, man. Watch out now.
But, you know, if you are using it for PDFs, like I have to say, it is great because I used to have scans that I would put on there, and you'd have text that was a little too small, and it would come out looking a little weird. And now you can look at everything.
And it's fine.
Exactly the way you want
it.
It
looks great. Before we have to say goodbye, I do want to get into a little bit of E3 2012 chat. You and I will both be out there again, braving the Los Angeles Convention Center, braving that freaking highway, and those stupid, there's so much driving for no reason. Oh, how are we going to do it? Regardless of that, we'll get there. We'll figure that out.
We'll try to get a good plane flight and hope that the Devils will be joining you there.
That would be something else. I appreciate you bringing that up. It's very possible if the Devils do make it to the finals. That's a big if. They still got to get through this round, the next round. If they somehow make it to the finals and LA does the same, the Devils and Kings could be playing for the Stanley Cup whilst we are in attendance at E3 2012.
Now, my family are Rangers fans, so if they heard me say that, now I don't really have a stake in hockey.
No.
But they would kill me
Jets
if I just
man.
said
You're a
that.
New
I should
York
be saying
football Jets man.
I should be saying I hope the Rangers follow us out.
Well, that's not what you want to say to me.
I don't want to say that too. And I don't mind either way, which my brother-in-law would hate.
Yeah,
so
that's unfortunate.
I'm sorry to say that. So I would like to see you happy and that the Devils
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Could you imagine I would not get any work done? Is all I'm saying. I'd have to.
It's right there. I mean,
it's right there. The Staples Center. The freaking the Nintendo thing is in it, right?
You can just go right from that into the game.
I don't even want to think about that possibility. Either way, E3 2012 right around the corner. We'll be there in a month. I just don't see the hype that there was last year. Sort of,
it's
stumbling into this one.
It's very quiet.
Very quiet. I think software will rule again. I think besides the Wii U, you're not going to see much in terms of hardware unless Sony and or Microsoft pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Right.
Which I kind of hope they do, just because I love reacting to something new. Like with the Wii U, that was so much fun telling everyone that this thing is not that cool. You know,
Being like,
that was a lot of fun for me.
yeah, and like you get a chance to be. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were curious about that. They were very curious about the Vita, and from as passersby to say like, you know, what is that thing all about?
Right.
It was interesting because it transformed from, you know, the Vita is an interesting device, but I would say a lot of people became more casual observers of the tech as opposed to really drooling for saying like, oh, this is a new console I heard about.
Right.
They have to. I say this every year, and I've been wrong, but when are they have to tease some new next gen?
But do they?
I think they
But do they? They've both come. Hasn't Microsoft come out and said we are not showing any new hardware in 2012 at E3?
But as the video game industry, I feel kind of is economically feels like it's dribbling its excitement and the profits. And
I hear you.
I think it's such a dangerous game each year to be like, we're good. It's sort of like Nintendo. Like,
oh, we're fine.
All those years that Nintendo was, it was like,
oh, we're okay.
The Wii's fine.
Yeah.
The Wii's fine. The DS is fine. Selling great. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And then it could be too late. And then suddenly you're showing the Wii U, and it's hard to get everyone back into being excited. I think if they wait too many years,
yeah,
you wait another 2 or 3, you know, well, they can wait 3 years and be like, here's the next gen Xbox. And I don't know for sure that they wouldn't lose interest. That there might be at that point in the industry.
I don't think they'll lose interest. I don't think that
universal interest.
I don't know. Think about the casual gamer and how the second they hear about a new console, they just drop what they're doing and start going nuts, right?
But don't you think?
I think I'm still not giving you that. I don't think the iPad is really that big of a threat to the console.
Not to the console. And I'm again, I'm not defending it as a gameplay device because I think it is a mess. I cover the gaming on it.
There's a 1 or 2 games I like playing on an iPad. Did you play Max Payne? Did you play Max Payne? Did you like it?
I like the fact that it works.
It works.
But you're not going to you're not going to
pick that
is
that painful.
But if you painful.
It is. It's Max Painful.
But you know, I thought it was successful for the fact that it could work, but I do think that there are enough people. Look, how many people out there, be honest, bought a Wii because they just wanted to play Wii Sports,
right? They
and
want
play
to go
something
bowling.
fun.
They want to do bowling in their house.
Those customers who were a considerable number now think, oh, I can just download my play my Angry Bird Temple Run.
Yeah, but you're not.
I got a fun, quick thing. That's all I cared about. I wasn't a gamer,
right?
So I'm just worried about that amount of people who buy consoles who frankly don't use them much, but do it for a novelty because they can play a little bit of a game because they used to play games. I think that part of the audience, a lot of gamers would say, well, good riddance. You know what? Those guys were just buying that console to play one silly game. But that's a big part of I just think it's a part of the customer base to be.
Don't you think, Scott, that the Nintendo is now like you're on your own? You're in your own thing now. You're not up with the big boys anymore. You're not with Microsoft.
Oh.
You're not with Sony. You have invented your own freakish category, whatever the hell it is that you guys do.
Yeah.
And you're sort of on your own. And now you've somehow made it that now you have 19 competitors instead of 2.
Oh, they're definitely in a weird middle zone.
You know, and look, this is you made this bed. You must now lay in it.
A gaming purgatory.
It is. It's limbo. It's like what are you? They've lost their identity as far as I'm concerned. They really have.
Well, I mean, it's so peripheral based, and that tablet just hangs over the entire system. The PS3 and 360, the best thing they've had going is that the systems are so similar.
Yeah,
that they were able to coexist in a comfortable zone and say, this is gaming.
Right. There's an ebb and flow. They both have their own list of exclusives that are worth it.
But all the big games, like your BioShock Infinite and all that type of stuff, they all get made for those platforms and easily, and it's all part of that. That's what gaming is.
And they're both content with what they're sort of doing.
Right. And Nintendo's always been like, well, you can't even make it for us because our controls are all different.
Right.
We got multiple screens.
Right.
Or a tablet, or they're not the same graphics.
This might get a little too techie, but you brought up BioShock Infinite. And at the Sony press conference last year, you and I sat there and we watched Ken Levine come out and say that BioShock Infinite for PS3 would have move support. Okay? And everyone sort of rolled their eyes.
That's right.
They were all like, what?
Good memory.
Why? What are you doing, Ken? You're the Martin Scorsese of video games, and you're going to freaking tell me that you're putting in just the right? Do you think it'll stay in there? Do you think? Because think about what's happened in a year with Move. It's gone from like,
oh yeah,
like lukewarm meh to just, as far as I'm concerned, a disaster.
to PlayStation Eye.
To
Another thing that goes in the drawer.
to that, another thing that has dust on it and is just will find itself in some obscure electronic museum 30 years from now.
Donkey Konga drums.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Right?
pay
Do
that
you
drawer.
think there's still? I mean, you might even have some sort of contract that they can't get out of that, and just be like, "Look, you said you're going to do this. You're going to do this."
I think it will have Move support. Do
Yeah.
I think it'll be headlined?
No.
But I think it will fulfill. I see him.
It's an obligation.
He's good on his word.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
I think, but it seems as opposed to Kinect, which is speaking of making things work with peripherals.
Yeah.
I find that works with Kinect is a anyway. Yes,
That's an opinion.
it's an opinion.
Yeah.
I think it seems pretty easy to make a game work with the Move because it's more like a controller. So I think they can kind of do that and move on.
Yeah.
It'll be like, where's the Move?
Yeah. By the way, it'll say that on the back in whisper chat.
It's
Works with Move, but don't worry about it.
the back page of the.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have instruction manuals in games anymore. I feel
No.
like they've all disappeared.
It'll say it's somewhere as a footnote, as the oldest and longest footnote. So yeah, that's pretty much. I think the games we're excited about. We're excited about our Tomb Raiders, our BioShocks, our.
It's like the same as
What
last year.
else,
It's like what are
right?
the big? Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the big games. It makes me think that a lot of every year there are new things, but I feel like maybe we're due for a lot more new stuff announced.
A lot more new IPs, I
New
would
IP.
hope. I don't want to see more
Can't do more
sequels. I
sequels.
know there's going to be Halo 4 stuff, and you just know that if they really start with a Halo 4 or a Black Ops 2 trailer of gameplay, I just don't care.
If their event is like 20 minutes of Halo 4,
I'm
followed by
going-
20 minutes of
I'm going to start heckling.
Call of Duty,
Let's just start booing. How about?
and then support for 2 new cable providers to
Yeah,
stream some
yeah.
obscure services. Thank you very much.
It's just come up with something new,
That's why I think new hardware at some point. I just get concerned about what else. Nintendo, at least, the one exciting thing, if you like Nintendo, is that so we've got to see. Well, not just the actual launch announcement for what's
But
going to
the
happen.
actual everything.
Yeah, what are the games?
Right.
We haven't seen any of that. So I imagine X number of games.
Right.
You would imagine, hopefully, an ambitious number, including third party. How the heck
Yeah.
those are going to work?
I'm most
There's a lot of stuff to watch there, I guess. Yeah.
for sure. I'm most anxious and excited to sit down at their press conference, at Nintendo's press conference.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, all right, how are you gonna spin this? How are you gonna make it act like your shareholders and everyone who owns a little slice of the pie should not go jump out a window?
I think they're going to be the same confident, calm demeanor they've always had.
Of course.
And they're going to look at, and then it'll
They'll
be
bring
a lot
out
of Smash
Miyamoto.
Brothers.
They'll bring out Miyamoto. Miyamoto will just smile and do his
Yeah.
little thing, and everyone will love him because he's an adorable genius.
Yeah, I mean, they're so lucky to have him, and he's amazing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't want anyone to take away from this discussion that we put one company in a more negative light. We sort of have the same negative
everyone.
outlook at all three of them are all sort of in the same bucket right now. So it'll be interesting to see.
I hope Miyamoto makes. I know this is my final nerd out comment. I like that he's been moved off of some of those big titles.
Yeah,
and I would love if he makes. He's got such an amazing imagination.
yeah.
If he
Give him
makes,
some money and put him in a room with the lab workers and
right,
see what happens.
like
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
indie games for Nintendo
Yeah.
would be the best thing ever. I
For
think he
sure.
just needs to be as weird and interesting as possible, and no one he can't be married to
And
Mario.
what bad could come of that?
I
Sure.
think it's
No,
great.
for sure. Except music. Anyway, we got to go. Big thanks to Scott
you.
Stein for coming on today's show and helping out with the program. Justin,
everyone.
you will be back. You can follow Scott on Twitter at JetScott. All right, make sure you do
Yes.
that. We'll link to that in the show notes today. If you have a discussion that you want to bring up about today's show, 866-404-CNET is the number to call, or you can email us to 404@cnet.com. Justin's back tomorrow, unfortunately, and we'll have a great rest of the week of shows. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Jeff Bacalar.
I'm Scott Stein.
It's the 404 High Tech Lowbrow. Big thanks again to Scott Stein. We'll see you
Thanks, guys.
guys tomorrow.